The ancient Egyptian reached its peak in making great civilization, building pyramids, building tombs. Behind me is the Valley of the Kings, the most important site in Egypt. How the Egyptian built this civilization? Because they did respect the desert, they respect the Nile, they respected the surrounding, and even they had a god for earth, a god for the sky, a god for the desert, a god for the Nile. Then they had a god who really can control everything that they use. And therefore, we can think of Herodotus, the father of the history, who when he came to Egypt and he said, Egypt is the gift of the Nile. No, the Egyptians were the gift of Egypt. Because the Egyptian first look at the Old Kingdom. Many people think that the collapse of the Old Kingdom was mainly of climate change. But really I think that climate change is one factor only of the collapse of the Old Kingdom, because we do have a story written in the Roman period, but it goes back to maybe to the Old Kingdom. In the time of King Zoser, the owner of the Step Pyramid, the oldest pyramid in Egypt, that dated back 5,000 years ago, Egypt had 7 years of famine. Then what happened? He consulted Imhotep, the architect who built the Step Pyramid, and Imhotep told him, you have to give offering to the gods who control the Nile. Zoser went to bed, but he had a dream. The god Khnum came to him and told him, I am the god who controls the Nile. And he gave offering to Khnum, then the Nile came back. And therefore, the Nile was very important source for the Egyptian. They know if there is increase in the volume of the flood, it can destroy everything. Then what the Egyptian did, they built their houses on a high area away from the flood. Then they did know that if the flood was decrease, means the famine. Increase means they have to respect that. And this is why when the flood came, the Egyptian used it to transport stones from Aswan, diorite from Nubia, alabaster from Hatnub. Then the Nile was very important for them. They use it in one's time, they know how can use it. We have a papyri called the Wad al-Jarf papyri, dated back to the time of Khufu. And it's a diary of an overseer of the workmen. His name is Mirror. And he's explaining to us how when the Nile rise, there is cargo boat transporting stones from Torah for the casing of the pyramid. When there is a good centralized government, they control the climate change. They control the climate. When there is a collapse in the centralized government, then people can do what they want. Then the people in Upper Egypt used all the water, and the people in the Delta, they did not have water, and they suffered a lot. Means it is very important that the government control the climate change. And this is really what's happened in ancient Egypt. If you look at an area between Giza and Saqqara, it was called the Wadi, the Valley of Gazelles. It was full of wild animals and green areas. The time in the New Kingdom, Tutankhamun used to hunt wild animals in this valley. Most of the kings, they did that. And even Amenhotep II did take his horses from Saqqara to Giza through this Valley of Gazelles. But when came the third intermediate period, people began, and there is no centralized government, people began to attack the animals, and the animals used to escape. And therefore, the green became desert. Also, in the time of the Middle Kingdom, when the Egyptians began to, because Egypt was a state of agriculture. When the Egyptians, in the beginning of the Middle Kingdom, found out there is no sources for agriculture because of the Nile, then they did go to Fayoum. And they tried to change this lake to provide water through the Nile to make agriculture. And that was one of the most important projects. I really think if today, in modern Egypt, if we are not going to make a control of climate changes, the tombs in the Valley of the Kings will collapse completely. Because you do have unique tombs, like the tomb of Tutankhamun, the tomb of Nefertari, the tomb of Seti the First. They are unique, and this is why I contacted very important project to make a replica valley of Tutankhamun. It's finished. It is installed next door to the tomb, to the Howard Carter's house. We finished Seti the First. We are starting Nefertari now, because in 100 years, in my opinion, if we do not control the climate change and try to accommodate between the need of tourism and the preservation of antiquities, all these tombs will be completely finished, and all of us will be sorry. Look how in modern Egypt, how the Nile was very important to our life. The Egyptians always measure the level of the Nile. They want to know, they want to control that. Today you have a big problem with Ethiopia. They built a dam, and this is why maybe this dam will affect our life and the people in Sudan also. And I really hope that during this conference in Sharm el-Sheikh, people can discuss this, because the Nile is the source of Egypt. But again, this civilization will never reach the peak as we see everywhere now without knowing that the ancient Egyptian did understand the meaning of the climate change, and they did use the sources to the benefit in making this great civilization.